so I think that there is no walk in life. I don't care how positive, how successful it looks like from the outside. There are always these ebbs and these flows, these ups and these downs, the challenges. But if the challenges aren't there, quite frankly, it gets kind of boring. So it's the opportunity to see how you can rise to the occasion and find more of your purpose in a fuller way. And then you're showing people what it looks like.
You are here. Welcome to the Purpose Finder podcast. This is the show where we uncover why you are truly here and, more importantly, how to make it your reality. My father, the late Dr. Miles Monroe, said the greatest tragedy in life is not death, but life without purpose. And research further shows that people with a strong sense of purpose are 2.4 times more likely to feel fulfilled. Each week, I sit down with extraordinary guests, entrepreneurs, artists, thought leaders who are boldly living their why. We dive deep into their journeys, the struggles they've overcome, their breakthroughs, and the lessons that can help you do the same. I am your beautiful host, Charissa Monroe Wilborn, and we're about to explore the mindsets, tools, and strategies to help you live a life with purpose, passion, and legacy. Are you ready? Let's go and dive into the episode. Ladies and gentlemen, here we are for another beautiful episode of the Purpose Finder podcast. Welcome. Here, our mission is simple: to inspire you to do what? Find and uncover your life's purpose and to live a life overflowing with our three things: meaning, fulfillment, and significance. Why? Because deep down, we are all craving belonging. No one wants to feel unfulfilled, and we're all asking that same question: why in the world am I here? Well, I hope you allow your answer to be found here on the Purpose Finder podcast. I am your host, Charissa Monroe Wilborn, and today I have the great honor and privilege of sitting down with an amazing woman who's doing amazing things in the community and in the lives of other women for the last 15, going on 16 years. So I look forward to us hearing her story, her journey, and all the things that she's learned along the way. Help me welcome Kelly Fair. Kelly, welcome to the podcast. How are
I'm
you?
great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. It is a pleasure to have you. You and I have done some talking off stage, and I can't wait for the listeners to hear a little bit about what you're doing and
Sure.
why, and everything in between. And so I'm not going to read a bio. They have no interest in hearing me. But please share with us who you are, where you're from, and what you do.
Absolutely. So I'm an author, I'm a speaker, and I've been a sculptor of girls' future professional voices, school age girls in particular. So for 15, almost 16 years, I've been the founder and executive director of Pebbles Girls Mentoring Program. We're Chicago based, but over the last 15 years, we've worked with more than 10,000 school age girls throughout Chicagoland. We've done work in Indiana, Dallas, Texas. For 4 years, had a college edition of our program at Duke University. And for the last 5 years, we've had a global Every Girl is a CEO virtual career conference as well, where we've worked with girls in South Africa, Kenya, Chad is a new country for us this year, and Jamaica as well. And so when I think about why I do what I do, for me as a girl, the game changer for me was I found out about this day called Take Your Daughter to Work Day. I don't know how I found out about it, but I did. And I told my parents, I said, look, girls don't have to go to school this day. They say we get to go to work with our parents. And I was like, I'm going to work with daddy. And I got a chance to do just that. And I got to see him at work. He wore a suit. He was professional. He was polished. He was kind. He was respected by his coworkers. But I got to see possibilities. I got to see what access looked like for myself. And so for me, when you take me from that school age girl and then you fast forward to 2009 when I founded Pebbles Girls Mentoring Program, I wanted to kind of keep carrying the torch about what a mentor taught me about working with girls and women and community. and decided to start a girls program for myself. But with the focus on communication and career, I thought to myself, well, why don't I kind of create the same type of experience I had with my dad with Take Your Daughter to Work Day? The challenge is this, Charissa, is that I wanted to do work mostly with girls here on the south side of Chicago, which is where I'm from. But many of them, their parents don't have the type of careers to say, you know what, hey, grab your knapsack and your notepad and hang out with me at work today. So essentially, through the Polish Pebbles program, we've created that experience for 10,000 plus girls. And so they get a chance to go on job shadows, they get a chance to hear from professional
Hmm.
women who share a blueprint of success in virtual conferences, in person conferences. And we've done that across industries and sectors, from hospitality, construction, the restaurant, entertainment industry, technology, you name it. And girls are getting a chance to really follow a career pipeline. They're following one from the schoolyards to the future boardrooms, kind of, periodically over that time. Where now, 15 years later, I've got them coming back as grown women. They're serving as mentors. They're serving as guest speakers for our girls. And so, for me, that passion, that purpose is being able to take the blueprint that was shared with me. And now, as an adult woman, I've made a career out of making sure that I'm doing my due diligence to create and give back to the community. But more importantly, creating a structure that will be sustainable long beyond a Kelly Fair, that we can keep, we can replicate, that we can scale, we can innovate, so that we know as a community, sharing a blueprint of success, mentoring girls, supporting girls is a part of who we are. It's our legacy. It's in our DNA, and it's just the right thing to do.
Uh, isn't it beautiful when you can pour and pour and pour all of you into
Yeah,
someone or a group of people, invest time, invest resources, and then years down the line, their thank you is, let me come back and
yeah,
serve. Like for you, that must be
yeah,
beautiful.
yeah. No,
And I think,
oh,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
And I think it's just very, parent child experience where you've trained this child, you have disciplined them, you have trained them, you have taught them, you have just given them all, you invested resources and time, and then 15-20 years down, the same child you can
Yeah,
watch, you can see your training come to life, you can see they're still around serving. Like that must be just beautiful for you to know that, okay, so the work that I'm putting
yeah,
in, the stress that I'm
yeah,
putting in, the hours that we're putting in, the money that we're putting in is not in vain.
absolutely.
So good for you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And that's where you are now. I want to go back to, you said something about, you take your daughter to work
Mhm.
day. Do you remember the how old you was the first time that you went
Yeah, I probably
with your
was
dad?
around 9 or 10 years old. You know what I mean? So
Okay,
I
so you
still
were
feel
young.
it was pretty amazing because I have no idea how I found out about it. But I'm just very grateful to God that I had that gumption to say, hey, girls can do this. I want to do it. But more importantly, I had parents who didn't laugh at me, who didn't say, go sit down, what are you talking about? They advocated for me and said yes. So I'm very grateful that I had parents that were courageous enough to let their purpose kind of come through them and be able to, be able to advocate and create spaces and opportunities for me as well.
It makes me think about my life, and not that I had a titled "Take Your Daughter to Work" day with my father and mother, but I feel like I was "Take Your Daughter to Work" day every
Yep.
day
Yep. Yep.
with my dad, and I think my father was intentional on how he trained my brother and
Mm,
I, how he would lead us, how he would position us to just watch him.
mm,
And so from we were young, even beyond or before 9 and 10, we always had the opportunity to be with mom and dad.
mm,
And they didn't have traditional jobs at the time that I was
yeah.
around. We traveled. My dad was a global speaker, and so we traveled a lot with them. That was work. So watching how they carried themselves on the airplane, in the airport, then in green rooms and on stages, like it was just, I feel like it was just take your children to work day every day. And how important it was, because here you are at your stage in life now, still remembering how important the take your daughter to work day was, and who you are and your possibilities and your opportunities and how you conduct yourself, and just how you allow yourself to now serve. And now here you are taking other girls to work,
Yeah.
if you will,
Yeah.
or making it a possibility for them.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think that that's just really a big core of our duty is that, and my job as the founder of this organization is not just to create systems and opportunities to mentor girls, but it's just to talk about the awareness and have conversations like we're having today to say, you know what, it really ain't that complex. You just kind of go within yourself and say, hey, let me take my niece, my nephew, my daughter, the girls on the block, the young ladies in my church. Let me just take them with me, and they get to just see what the day is like to ride in the car with you, how you handle the people at the grocery store, and when you do it with respect and with grace, and maybe what you do in work, but just even the basic normal stuff. And I think it's important that we really dissect and break that down so that people understand this should be a part of our purpose is just being a community and village, and you don't have to be a Kelly Fair and be a girl whisperer to do it. All of us are girl whisperers or young people whisperers. And this is just our job. So when we're in our space and working to be our best, grab that young person and bring them with you. So it doesn't have to be a structured program. You don't have to go start a nonprofit. You can just be intentional about sharing the best of you with young people in the community. And it's
Here's
just really
someone.
that simple.
Yes. I love that encouragement. Absolutely. And people, and I love that you say that, because people always believe that they have to have something big, or their name must be known, or they must have this big organization in order to do good. And Kelly just said, like, no, you don't. You have a niece, you have a nephew, you have a sister, you have a brother, you have a friend, you have a godchild, you have just someone in the neighborhood that you can say, you know what? Come with me. Let me help you. Let me teach you. Learn one or two things. And it's not to say that that person is lacking it already. It's just that you just get to say, but I need to be able to pour out of me what someone has poured into me.
And if
And
nobody
it's me.
poured it into you, that's all the more reason to draw from the deep depths of your soul, and really let God
Exactly.
guide you to do it anyway, because it's the right thing
Absolutely.
to do. When I think about this too, Teresa, in my first book I tell a story about my great grandmother Maggie Peoples. She lives here on the far south side of the city, but sometimes people think you got to have a big structure, big program, or be white collar or professional. No, we call my great grandmother Nana, and she didn't have a high school education. She didn't have an eighth grade diploma either. But she did mostly domestic work. She was an Avon lady. Shout out to those who remember Avon and what Avon ladies were in the community. She owned a barbecue shop, but more importantly, she was an usher at her church, Arnett Chapel, for 63 years. And so she was really amazed when they started a girls mentoring program, and they had girls go stand next to the woman that you wanted in the church to mentor you. And she couldn't believe a girl came and stood next to her. She figured, I'm not educational, I'm not professional. But the girls got to see how committed she was every Sunday to her post as being an usher. She cooked really good chicken and spaghetti and stuff in the church basement after service. Those things are important. And so I think in these conversations about purpose, about how to do it, again, you do not have to have a big structure. You could be a volunteer in a program like ours, or just being in your community, and you don't have to be educated. I think that's really something that we have to convey to folks is that it's the heart, it's the intent that matters, and not necessarily all the boxes and the fixings and all the outer stuff that sometimes we place a lot of importance in.
But that's what purpose is about,
Yep.
right? It's about
Yep.
service. It's about being a servant. Like when you think about leadership, like servant leadership is the greatest leadership
Yeah.
ever. And it made me smile to hear that all your grandmother did was serve. Like she served her gift of hospitality,
Mhm.
of love, of kindness, of
Mhm.
compassion. Like no amount of schooling could have given her that skill
Right.
anyway. Like that's just who she was
Right.
naturally, and she served it. And when you think about purpose, it's all about the mission and the vision being greater than
Yeah.
yourself, being greater than your accolades, being greater than what degrees you
Right.
have. Like the mission and the vision is greater than
Right.
you. It's for
Right.
someone. So I think it's beautiful. And I think Graham bringing Nana, uh, even to this conversation, was a reminder of I don't have to have anything if I have a heart.
Mm.
I don't have to have anything if I have a heart to
Yep.
serve.
Yep.
And my heart, you don't have to be big. It just has to be a heart that's
Yep.
willing.
Yep.
A heart that's willing. So Kelly, when you think about from that 9-year old girl who went to, take your daughter to work day with dad to when you started the
Mhm.
nonprofit, was it always easy? Was it always easy? The different transitions you went through, like the journey to where you are now, was it always easy going because you had two parents in the home, because you had this dad that gave you
Mhm.
possibilities? Or did you have seasons when, whew, life is a kicker?
No, I mean, absolutely. I think part of what kept me motivated was I always got really mentored from that point on, through work supervisors, right? From the age of like 13 when I had my first job all the way to grad school and then into my first position. And often what I'll tell audiences, but particularly girls, is that you couldn't have paid me money to think that at that age and 10, 11 years old, especially when I got into sixth grade and I transferred to a new school, that I would get in front of audiences and speak. I was a very confident girl in third, fourth, and fifth grade. Love school, love raising my hand. Went to a really small, all black Lutheran school that from pre-K to 8 had about 100 kids in there. So you knew everybody. But I like going to school. I'd even jumped from fourth grade to fifth grade math and was proud of myself. Transferred to a new school in sixth grade. It was public school, so it was no more uniforms. You had to have the cute outfits, and the cool girls had the cute hairstyles. And my self esteem took a nosedive, right? So the confident girl who used to raise her hand and be proud of leading and being in school, I got worried because it's like if I step out and answer this question for the guest speaker, then what if I trip on the way going up to the stage? Or if I say something, then the boy's gonna say something, and then she gonna be mad because she gonna say something. Can you sit with the cool girls at lunch? It was all these pressures. Now that was me in sixth grade. It may not have been everybody, but the research says that commonly that happens to most women, regardless of background,
Mm,
ethnicity, or what have you, about that sixth grade age group. And so I lost a lot of my confidence. The blessing was I had that early experience with my dad at work. And I love Essence magazine. I was an Essence girl, because at that time in the 80s and 90s, Essence magazine was one of those few places in print or media anywhere that you could see images of Black women, stories about Black women in a really positive light. And I always idolized that. I loved reading Susan Taylor, who was the editor emeritus, all of her editorials. And so it became a guiding light for me. And because I wanted to be an essence lady, I always wanted to work. I used to want to be a cosmetologist. So when I was 13, my mom said, well,
so was
oh,
I.
really? Okay, cool.
Yes, and my dad was like, mm-mm.
Well, I that's what I thought I wanted to do. And I was preparing for the summer right before I went into high school. My mom said, what do you want to do this summer? You want to get a summer camp, day programs? And I'm like, girl, no, I want a job, right? Because I thought I was an Essence woman, and Essence women have careers. And at that time, I wanted to be a cosmetologist. Now there were no smartphones back then. There was this big thing called the yellow pages, and you had to flip through
Hmm.
the phone book to find. And I'm grateful that again my mother advocated for me. So there's a running theme here, is that we need families, we need communities, we need people in schools to advocate and support our young people and support their dreams, right? And she flipped through the yellow pages and found Dudley's Beauty College, and it was on the south side of Chicago. And if you know Dudley's, that was a historic, Black owned hair care company. They
Yep.
still exist. And I went on an interview, and Miss Clausen interviewed me. She was the director then. She's the director now. And they let me intern 2 half days that whole summer. And I could have died and went to heaven. It was like the best thing ever. And they mentored me though, right? It wasn't easy. No. I couldn't understand why they weren't gonna let me touch anybody's hair. So, but I did whatever they told me to do. I swept the floor. I cleaned up the stock room. But remember, I said I was shy. One of the things they made me do was work the cash register. And if you know black
So you had
women,
to talk.
huh?
So you had to talk.
Oh, and black women have been standing in line waiting for the place to open. They had no time and patience for my little shy self. So, I had to build up my confidence there with speaking. The women there mentored me and said, hey, you should dress like this. And even though you're interested in hair, you still should think about a 4-year college degree. And so I'm just kind of grateful that they got me on that start. I had to keep building my confidence over time, but I had tons of pitfalls, going away to school on my own. I was grateful to go to Howard University, but I had to work to get scholarships, so if my parents made the commitment and the sacrifice for me to be there, I had to keep building up my leadership skills and my speaking skills to be able to put myself in the forefront and build these opportunities. So I think that there is no walk in life. I don't care how positive, how successful it looks like from the outside. There are always these ebbs and these flows, these ups and these downs, the challenges. But if the challenges aren't there, quite frankly, it gets kind of boring. So it's the opportunity to see how you can rise to the occasion and find more of your purpose in a fuller way. And then you're showing people what it looks like. And so I had to really keep building my career. I transitioned to grad school and went from an all black university to a predominantly white institution in Iowa, which was far from anything that I knew on the south side of Chicago or Washington, D.C. at that point, which used to be known as Chocolate City. And so I had to really dig deep within myself to find my confidence and know I definitely deserved to be at that institution. It was the number one institution in my field. I thought all of them as white women were going to be more experienced than me, smarter than me. And I found out that, nah, you know a lot. You've been well prepared. You've been trained. You've done a lot of work on yourself, and I rose to the occasion there. And I think you could just pinpoint plenty of times throughout the career. You get a big corporate job at a young age. When I used to work for McGraw Hill, and I got a project manager job over research studies. I got a national marketing manager's job, and I knew nothing about marketing. I didn't have an MBA or a business degree. But when you study, you get an opportunity, you can learn anything. When you show up and you're purposeful and in that position and you're willing to accept help from others, you can really rise to the occasion. So I think the challenges are going to come, then the opportunities come, but you can keep giving yourself an opportunity to just rise to the occasion and see that you're more than capable. And where you're weak or where you feel like you don't have, the universe will show up. God will show up and provide the people and the teachers and the advocates for you along the way to support your growth.
Oh, I'm sitting here and I'm the host of this podcast, and I'm sitting here hearing little bits and pieces of my life in your
Mhm.
story, which is the very purpose of why I created the
Okay.
podcast, is so that my listeners, both men and women, can hear and see bits and pieces of their lives in the stories of my guests.
Mm.
And here I am remembering when I too wanted to be a cosmetologist, and I too went after the finding the summer job and found the summer job, and they didn't want me to touch hair first, so I swept the floor and I stopped the shampoo, I stopped restocked the
Yeah.
shampoos and the cupboards, and I washed the towels. I did all of that until maybe about the last month they allowed me to wash. They allowed me to wash and maybe roll a set. I think so. And man, that was
Yeah.
major. And I'm just remembering, and I'm like, man, we it's a small world, but when you truly have a passion about something, like my dad was like, okay, so cosmetology, not that it's beneath
Hmm.
you, but in his mind, he had something bigger and better for where his children would
Right.
go. But he also knew that it was a passion of
Hmm.
mine, and so he never allowed me, or he never stopped me from being allowed to go and, hey, if you want to go and work with your aunt, my aunt just happened to be a cosmetologist, absolutely go ahead and make some money and do something for the summer
Hmm.
other than being idle.
Hmm.
So I did that for like maybe one summer, and then the next summer, and it was lovely. I learned a lot. I uh, was grateful to just be able to do something that I'm fun that I'm finding fun, that was
Right.
fun. And so why not make some dollars,
Right.
right? The right way, the right way.
And build
And then
skills. I mean, those are future ready
exactly.
skills that are priceless. The ability to know how to connect and listen to people, provide customer service. I mean, if you're a world leader, you're a politician, you're a CEO, whatever it is, at the end of the day, you have a customer. And you got to make sure that that
True.
customer, whether that's your employees, whether those are your stakeholders, your clients. And so, every experience, if we're really, mindful about it and pay attention or have somebody to help teach us and direct us, has some powerful experiences to help groom you and grow you for whatever that path is that God has for you. Yeah.
And I want you to talk about that. You brought in the word experiences because I want you to talk about, I love that you talked about getting this position as a
Mhm.
marketer, but not having any marketing
Yeah.
degree, no bachelor's, no master's, knew nothing about marketing. But here it is, you got this marketing degree, but you were willing to learn, you were willing to be coached, you were willing to be
Yeah.
trained. I want you to speak to those persons who, especially at this stage in their lives, and they may be a lot older, but they're thinking that the only way that I can move forward in life is to go back to
Hmm.
school and get a
Hmm.
degree, or the only validation that I'm going to get is if I have a
Hmm.
degree. But that doesn't have to be. It can just be that over the years I have accumulated experiences in
Yeah.
life. So talk a little bit more about what that really looked like for you and how important that is for those listening who may be thinking that I am not worthy, I don't have
Yeah.
value if I don't have a paper.
Yeah. No, I think it's important. I think it's important for us. And as I've worked with girls and young women over the last 15 years, and then you see a lot of them now that are progressing and moving into their careers and pondering and preparing. A big thing that we have to think about is what skills do I have? And I think that
Mhm.
understanding what skills are, whether those are communication skills, whether those are people connecting skills, empowering skills, whether those are technical skills, so, you've got to really understand that, what are skills and how are they valuable in different, situations, jobs, etc. You got to build skills. I don't care if you go get a degree to try and build the skills. And even after you get the degree, you got to make the degree work and put it into practice. You could study scenarios and possibilities and old stories and history. But at the end of the day, it takes the real life experience that puts it all
Mhm.
together that makes it work. How to lead projects, how to manage. You don't have to get a job or a degree to do that. You can volunteer. So when we think about finding your purpose, when I think back to probably even in my college to career and undergrad at Howard, um, I thought to myself about, okay, well, I want to be a speech pathologist. Those were my both of my degrees are in speech pathology. Well, why don't I go to the Howard Hospital and become a candy striper and volunteer and see if they'll let me work in the speech pathology department? One of the things I'm working on another project, for young women and college age women that I'm really seeing as I look back over my walk is that I have a trend of creating opportunities for myself, right? But I think that started with that Take Your
Mm.
Daughter to Work Day, where you hear about it and then you say, well, what if? Let me ask my mom and them if I could go. And then they say yes. And it builds some excitement within you about the possibilities. And I had that trend of keep doing that. It's just like, well, I don't know. Dudley's has never had anybody that they took in as a high school student as an intern before. Let's ask. We asked and they said yes. My own cosmetologist. I never saw a young shampoo girl in there, but after I kind of grew some confidence from the Dudley's experience, I said, "Hey, Miss Hall, can I come up here on Fridays and Saturdays and be your shampoo girl?" And she said, "Gladly." So I think that's one of the things that's important is that you can volunteer and get experience and opportunities, and create experiences for yourself. So you don't always have to have the paper, the time, the validation. In that way, you've got to have that gumption to say, I'm capable. This is a possibility. Can create something. But one of the things I think is always important though is once you get that opportunity, you got to be a good mentee. You got to be a good volunteer, which means you got to study. So with these smartphones, there is no excuse. I mean, when my day, we used to have to go to the library and get Encyclopedia Britannicas and all that stuff to research. Now with the internet, with AI, you could Google and you could ask ChatGPT about anything, and you got to read and you got to study and you got to know. You got to be curious, ask questions. What about? I read this. Does this make sense? Those are the kind of things and characteristics that make a winner, that make you successful, regardless if you are a middle school student, high school student, college, graduate student, or a working professional. When you talk to successful people, it's those same things. They think about the possibilities, they ask and create where it may not be. When you get there, you study, you listen, you follow instructions, you're respectful. And so I think that that's really things that are basic, but we need to make sure that we are talking about these basic things and characteristics and skills that are really important and that they work. And this the same formula for success. If you are at your level where you're traveling internationally around the world and you're going to different communities and cultures, you observe, you study, you listen, you pay attention, you're curious and ask them what they want, how they want you to show up. Then you produce, and then once you produce, you go back and think about it and talk and ask questions and start all over again. It's the same process for success. So I think that's one of the things that I think is critically important when you think about it. But I think that when we talk about how do we help young people find their purpose, we have to talk about those magical moments that you can create something for yourself. It's almost a childlike thing where you can say, "Ooh, it's the blank canvas to say, what if?" And that's the excitement that I want to see anybody, but particularly girls that come through Polished Pebbles Girls Mentoring Program to say, "Ooh, I never knew about construction. Ooh, I never knew about working at this company in this career. What if this could be me?" And then we give them the set tools and the resources to move on that path. That's powerful. And when you get on fire like that and you see what success looks like, then you're willing to come back and you want to come back and to share it with others as well. So that's that magic I want to see keep happening and getting reproduced. It's almost a recycling thing. I say this just because we're in the US. When we talk about mentorship and supporting other people, I often say that mentorship is as American as apple pie. You can't find a successful person that didn't have it, and it's one of the things that we have to be able to have it, share it, but also give it out as well.
I'm here in Mexico City at the Pave the Path Retreat 2024.
This first day has been amazing.
We tend to look for answers on the outside of ourselves, but a lot of our solutions to our problems are on the inside of us.
If I had to wrap this up in one word, I would use the word transformative.
One thing I learned day one is, I guess, be open to the applause when you have people that are on your side cheering you on.
Transformation is a process, so I don't expect us to get to a place where we're completely transformed. You should never be transformed. There should always be a transforming continually happening.
My relationship to love is that I believe love is something you have to conquer. So I always go for challenging people versus love is something that you find, or love is something that finds you, where then I would date the people who actually want to be with me and not the ones who are avoiding.
If you want to return home unrecognizable, make sure you are with us next year. You don't want to miss such a beautiful experience.
I've already been thinking of people that I want to run home and tell, and I'm excited to come back next year.
Position yourself to be poured into so that you can be served from your overflow, but make sure that who and what is pouring into you is pouring in life. It's pouring in empowerment. pouring in good, positive vibes because you don't want to be filling and pouring and overflowing on serving the people you serve with a bunch of oil.
Y'all better come on this retreat.
Oh, so much I want to go back to. And you talk about the what if, and also keeping in mind that we focus on the what if of the magic, the what if of possibilities, because there's also the what if of what if I go up to that mic and I fall on the way there,
Yep.
like you said.
Yep.
What if I fail?
Yep.
So there, which side of the what if are you choosing to
Yeah.
be? Because it could be
Yeah.
either. And are both of those possible? Absolutely. I could very well fall on my way to that mic and bust my
Yeah.
lip. But once I get there, what if something is waiting for
Yeah.
me? So it's not to say that you're going to completely avoid the challenges and adversities that may happen in life, but are you even willing to say, even if that does happen, what if it does? Okay, if it does, what if I do? And then what's on the other
Yeah.
side?
Yeah. No, I mean,
What
it's
and I'm speaking to someone who may be
yeah.
listening, who may be stuck in the what if I trip on my way to that
Yeah.
microphone?
No,
What if I
we have to
fail?
take risk. I think sometimes
What if they tell me
when we
no?
think about creating something or creating a business or business like manners, we think about the big businessmen, the wolves of Wall Street. They take risk in business. We take risk every day. I don't care if it's a nonprofit, a church or organization, or just your day to day life. There's always this risk that you're going to fail. And I think one of the things that, as you have enough experience, you come to learn that sometimes the failure is a part of the process. To get to where you want to be, because it gives you an opportunity to learn. Maybe you were only focused on one particular way of doing it, but that failure kept you from doing what ultimately wasn't the right thing to do. I've been doing Polished Pebbles now for 15 years, and we've been doing it in one way and format in which we go out and provide programming. So, in the early years, it was myself, but now we have a team of mentors and facilitators who go out to schools and provide school day, after school program, virtual program, etc., and work directly with girls. When I'm looking at my next chapter, my next 15, where my career is going, I know that we need to still close the gap on impact with girls. We could serve more girls. I know that all the girls in the schools that we serve are not getting served. I know that a lot of schools, even just here in Chicagoland, don't have the funding and the resources and still don't have a program for their girls. So for me, the next step is, I've been working on a trainer model to train other people within organizations, within school districts, to create girl-centered programming to doing that, giving them our Every Girl's a CEO student book and instructor's manual to do that. But guess what? I've been working on this for like 10 years. So 10 years ago, we flew into Texas and we were training and working with a school district there on our original curriculum and taking it, and we fell down and skinned our knees a bit because there's certain things that you get excited and you're like, let's go with it. I was on a plane and going here and going to North Carolina and trying all these things. But then sometimes you see, that didn't work so well. We didn't protect ourselves well in that way. This partnership didn't work. And it can be devastating. I mean, sometimes when you fall down and skin your knees, you got to sit on that thing for about a minute. I've presented and pitched proposals and ideas, and you were 10 minutes late beyond the deadline and didn't get it in or it wasn't accepted. It could be enough to make you sit. But it's part of the process where you learn better to say, that wasn't the right way to go at it. If I do it again, these are some of the things that I would do, and boundaries to protect myself to make a better product. Will probably be more profitable and more impactful if we do it in this way. So the failures, as uncomfortable as they can be, as scary as they can be, are actually a part of the process. The successful people, again, when you go and you talk to successful people, they fell down, their skin and knees, they messed up completely. But the key part is they got back up. And that was very similar to, like you said, you're walking up to the stage and you fall and bust your lip. Did you stay down? Did you run away? Did you go back to your seat? No, if you kept moving and you got up there and gave it a good try, that's a part of the process for building your confidence. That's that pathway, that pipeline to success. So you can't be afraid. And people are going to laugh at you. They're going to talk about you. They're going to say, well, who do you think you are? I still fight that daily, every day. Because when you're successful and you're growing something, then you realize you got to pivot and do something different. The pandemic pushed us all into pivoting, did it not? So that was,
No matter who you are, no matter where you are, everybody was on that same level for the first
yep.
time in a very
And
long
we
time.
made it.
Mm-hmm.
Many of us, we
Yes.
made it to the other side. So that becomes a thing that when the next thing becomes scary, I'm doing new initiatives, which people are just like, well, what is Kelly talking about? And even people within your team may not believe in it and understand it. But you got to go deep within yourself. If that's a mentor, a family member, if that's the prayer hotline, baby, because I have called that thing regularly to say, hey, I'm scared, I'm nervous, but I got this new idea. Because you start new stuff again and it gets scary, it gets nervous, you think people don't believe in it. And you've got to keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing. But that's the constant thing about it is that, Jesus always was a much of a learner as he was a teacher
Mm-hmm.
and a student. So we're always teaching, but we're always learning as well. And so it's finding that balance and that pivot between those kind of two steps that will, keep you moving past the fear, that you take those chances and you fail up. I remember it used to be a book I read called Failure Was the Womb for Success. So, there are a lot of people that feel like the failing is the part that creates the birthplace for you to be
Mm-hmm.
successful.
And I have two coaches, and I am going to kind of quote or paraphrase both of them. As I talk, one of my coaches, Sean Smith, he always talks about, don't be afraid to get into action. Like action, like there's this triangle that we should take. Like we should just get into action. If you don't know, get into action. If you want to know, get into action. And then you can do the assessments of what did that action cause you? Did you get the results? Did you fail? Okay, let's assess why, let's assess how, let's assess what we need to change, and then make the adjustments. When you make the adjustments, then get into action again. Oh, Kelly, a couple of years ago, I learned that from him as my coach, life coach, business coach. And when I say that was all I needed to know, that if I can follow that circular framework of getting into action, putting the idea forward, then assessing, then adjusting, get into action, and then keep doing it over and over and over again. I don't care how many iterations it's going to take for me to get whatever it is that I'm trying to work on, not perfect, but get it excellent. I just need to make sure that I'm getting into action, I'm assessing what I'm doing, and then I'm making the adjustments. And in between all of those, there's failure, there's bruising of the knees, but there's also getting it right, there's making the adjustments, there's failing, there's falling down, but at least I'm getting in action. I'm building the muscles in the gym, if you will. And I'm as someone who loved going to the gym and understand how muscles work. When you are building muscle, there's always a tearing that occurs, and that tearing is necessary for the strengthening of that muscle to occur. But if you are afraid to lift because you don't want to tear, then you'll never build the very muscle you're trying to strengthen.
It's building
So we can't want to have success and not want to fail. We can't want to build this muscle but not want to tear
yeah.
at the same time.
Absolutely. It's building those faith muscles. And that's why I think of
Absolutely.
all the actions and taking on small steps. One of the first ones I think is so important that I'm really working to train myself to come to every time is let me go to God first. Let me get still. Let me pray first so that then my actions are even guided. So that's usually what I'm working hard to create those habits of. That's my first action. It's kind of like a purposeful, spiritually led leader. It's like, let me go and get still and get quiet. Or I took these actions and I fell down and ripped that muscle a little bit and I'm getting a little scared. So let me take maybe a middle day meditation and prayer time to be able to kind of come back to get centered so I know what next step to take. And a lot of times I was listening to a tape and they said one of the things you could say, because we think prayer, has to be so verbose and so this, where sometimes, you can just go to God and say, what next? You know what I'm saying? Like, what next? I took these actions and these steps. So what's the next step? And sometimes, that communication with God is just that simplistic. It's just like, so where do I go with this next? And he always shows up. He always shows up.
And one of the things I believe my dad, Dr. Miles Monroe, always talks about faith being the currency of the
Yeah.
kingdom. And if we were to have another currency that I would talk about, it would be that of relationships,
Mm,
and how important it is for us to master our relationships.
mm,
One thing that you and every guest that I've had on this podcast, if they've all mentioned they had a
yeah.
mentor or they had a
Yeah.
coach. They had a
Yeah.
mentor, they had a mentor. I didn't even bring it up with you, and you just mentioned your mentor, your mentor. It's almost a through line with every successful person who has been on this podcast, or just period.
Mm,
Like you say, if you talk to someone who is successful, they're going to probably say, in addition to the things we already mentioned, having someone that's already 20 years ahead of
yeah.
you, doing where you already want to get to, doing what you're already doing, like having someone who you can answer to, who's going to hold you accountable, who you can learn from.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And also having people, cheerleaders and
Yeah.
supporters in your
Yeah.
corner who, you're not in this life alone. And sometimes we think that money, if we have money, then we have currency. Sometimes you can have money and still be nothing. You can have money and still be unhappy. You can have money and still not moving forward. Or you can have relationships and there's someone dragging you along the way. Um, Something else you said that brings me to mind of one of my other coaches, Lisa Nichols. I don't know if you've heard about her. Oh, she's an amazing, amazing woman, amazing transformational facilitator and coach. And I worked with her, and it's because of her that I even got other coaches anyway. Because one of the things she's very big on is that you are not in this world alone. And the more than you think you are, the slower it's going to take you to get where you're going, and the shorter the distance. But if you want to go further, if you want to go farther, if you want to go longer, like strap on to somebody else. Connect your caboose to my train, like she would say. And so I've enjoyed just the connection that I've been making, even on the podcast. Some of you I know, some of you I don't know, and then from there, that relationship is sparking, and people wonder, man, why can't I move forward? Well, tell me, who are the 5 people in your life that you talk to on a regular basis, or that you're around? Because we're the sum of the 5 people that are the closest to us. So yes, that's very, very important. Um, but I've been enjoying this because I don't know about anybody else listening, but I am learning a lot from Kelly. I am seeing so much of me and so much of how I can grow just listening to you, Kelly. And I appreciate your candor. I appreciate your transparency. I know one of the things that you and I talked about off stage was the challenges of being a Black woman in leadership. It's not always easy. Um, do you mind sharing a little bit about what that's been for you over the last 20 years, 25 years, 10
Sure.
years? Um, to those who are familiar with or not familiar with what that is and they're shy to be like, I don't know if it's going to be the thing for me.
Yeah. No, I was trying to go back through my Instagram stories. I saw a story today from Cheryl Lee Ralph, and I thought it was like really on point. And it says, this is advice every woman needs to hear. Women are working to carry the weight. And we're so used to carrying the weight of everybody, right? Mothers are
Mm,
carrying weight. Women lead. We've led in the church, sometimes even in the background for years. We lead our communities, and so we end up carrying so much of the weight of what we do and how we do it. And Black women have been really key in that. You even hear after the last national election here in the U.S., Black women are just like, we're on pause, we're on break, we're not helping out anymore. And so I think that, you have to look at the trends. I shared earlier the story of my great grandmother, Maggie. Pebbles, who was an usher for 63 years, and she volunteered. And I think sometimes we become so comfortable with women, Black women in particular, carrying the weight, being a strong Black woman. We're gonna make it all happen, even if I had to make it happen on a dollar and a dime. That becomes the expectation, is that, well, you're gonna make it work and make it fix and do what it do anyway. So just keep doing that. And I think that what I've learned in the last 15 years is that, yes, if you do not know your value and your worth, if you don't know what others are out here getting, and that's our male counterparts, that's our female counterparts, white counterparts, etc., they will keep expecting you to just make it work and reinvent yourself over and over and over again. And then when we look at our community and we talk about what happened to that organization, it was powerful. What happened to Polished Pebbles? What happened to Kelly Fair? She tired. You know what I'm saying? She wore herself out. And in many ways, if we're not careful, people will just let that pass. And if we let it pass because of stereotypes, because of myths about Black women, Black people, is that, oh, well, maybe it wasn't led properly. Maybe we just didn't get it together. No, it's because we're not being supported adequately. And if we keep carrying the weight and don't talk about it, know our value, and make sure that people are showing us and validating that through funding, through proper and adequate support, capacity building, all the things that, quite frankly, they give others quietly. Nobody talks about it. Then we won't get it. And so for me, 15 years in, I am very obsessed with replacing myself, whether that's through Polished Pebbles or just thinking about who's the next Kelly Fairs that want to start an organization or do this work or to work for another organization. How do I make sure that her work and her walk isn't quite as hard? And so we've got to talk about, hey, when you have an organization that's founded by an individual from these neighborhoods, from these communities, my ideas are trailblazing. You need to fund that appropriately. You need to adequately acknowledge that in media support and other ways. And that's important. This is a special sauce, baby. You're not going to get everywhere else. And it's my role at this point in my leadership to be okay with saying that and saying, you're not going to get a Kelly Fair every time, but here's the ingredients. That's all we've been talking about, Carissa, this whole time is, but here's the ingredients of how you train up and how you create and how you can make it successful. 15 years ago, if you would have given Kelly Fair access to this community of funders, if you would have given her this type of support that you give others, that, it's just natural to give to a startup and somebody you believe in. So that's another piece when we talk about foundation challenges that makes this work hard. Believe in me, support me. Don't talk about how the girls are so important and you just love them and you want to empower them. Show them by funding our organizations adequately so that I'm supported adequately. And I'll share this. I never forget, I was working and I saw a colleague in a coffee shop, and he used to run a large charter school system, and he had left that to go start another organization, and was funded by kind of like a unique funding source. And I saw him and I said, how you doing? He goes, Kelly Fair, I have time to think. And it sounds very basic and elementary, but the reality is, when you're funded and you're supported adequately, when your leadership is respected, people will create an incubator so you could think. You could strategize. You could hire top talent. You could have the right kind of advisory boards to really just move this thing forward. So, as much as I love my story about my Nana, and for 63 years she gave and she volunteered, I think that's an important part of this ingredient for success. The important part is now in my role in this generation to say, but this work, this special sauce I'm giving you, it costs. It deserves to be funded adequately. And I'll say this, I see all on the Instagram, the young girls are talking about, like, I want to live the soft life. I think it's even some songs that like soft life, soft life. And I'm like, yeah, I want to live soft life too, right? Peace over, kind of like chaos and calm and all those things that we're seeking. We deserve to be supported adequately, respected in our leadership, beloved and supported and cherished in such a way that I should be able to live the soft life as the leader of Polished Pebbles and show what this really should look like. So that's where I'm at now. Put your money where your mouth is. Oh, I love what you do. It's amazing. It's amazing. Great. So support me, provide me with the proper advisement, leadership, support, dollars, all of those things, so that when I get in front of girls and say, "Oh, this magic is wonderful. Finding your purpose is amazing." Da 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 da. I look like it. They can see me behind the scenes or in front of the camera, in front of the audience, and I'm living the soft girl life. That's what I've been telling some of the funders is like, make sure that I can live the soft girl life, and not just me, my staff, and how are we attracting top talent. So that's something that I'm really, really driven. I'm working on a new project too that is for college age women, for early professionals as well, so that we are training them and engaging them from these earliest stages so that they are thinking that way as they're starting on the earliest path of their professional lives. Because I think one of the things we take for granted when we think about mentorship, we think about kids, we think about elementary school students, high school students, and we assume that once they get the college degrees, and especially in our communities, if they're first generation, etc., oh, they got it. She got a job. She's good. No, we need mentorship and support, and she needs you at every point of the way. And I want to make sure that we're supporting our girls and our young women on every step and stage and milestone, so that again, they get a chance to experience all the fullness. They don't have to make the sacrifices that I made. They can live that soft girl life, and have holistic, well lived lifestyles, and still be powerful in business, still have impact if they're social entrepreneurs. It's those ingredients that are really critically important that people have to show up and be accountable for, to really demonstrate that they believe in us and they support our work.
Sometimes I find that there's misconception that people have with, purpose related work and money. And the fact that the two of them are not married together, as opposed to if you found your purpose and you're all about it and you're just serving, then it should be this thing of then you're serving and you're just volunteering and you shouldn't want money.
Mm-hmm.
And that is so not
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
That is a misconception. It is wrong. It is just, and to the point where I find that when you are truly walking, Kelly, in your purpose and you are serving your gift, when you think of your gift, like literally serving your gift, but you're not thinking about money, people will automatically start to be attracted to what it is that you're serving, be attracted to your gift. And then they're willing to give whatever they possibly have to get this gift of yours. And so I always encourage people to make sure you are serving your gift, developing your gift, that skill we talk about. Like, are you developing your skills? And then serve that, because you're like a tree. Like, think of a mango tree, apple tree, orange tree, pick your best fruit. And the money that we will pay, or the whatever resources we will exchange to get whatever that fruit or that tree, what fruit is from that tree that we want. Like, we would give anything, especially if the fruit is good, if it's sweet, if it's lush, if it's just amazing, because that tree is serving its gift. Forget the money. It's just serving, serving, serving. But that tree is serving its purpose. And the more that we serve our purpose, you are very much correct. We will be rewarded. We should be rewarded. It is our right. Forget privilege. It is our right. And why do people look and see, oh my goodness, she's walking in her purpose. Look at the amount of people she's served and over the last 16 years, but then they don't attach money to it. And 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 there should not be. There should not be this, well, you're able to do that, you're serving, you're doing it day and night, you love Monday mornings, you love Friday nights, you love Saturdays, you love Monday mornings again, this is what you do. But let's give to the organization that where you have a whole bunch of workers that cannot stand Monday.
Mm-hmm. 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 No, I used to think that, like, when I first started, I thought it was pretentious to ask school districts that were already struggling, how could we ask for money for this? And then I worked for some men, and they were getting funded. And I was like, okay, well, my ideas and my programs are pretty doggone good. And so Do I want to kind of stay in this struggle mindset of I don't deserve? And we have to be careful because what we're doing, whether you're getting up and you're speaking, leading workshops, you're mentoring, whatever it is, I'm really a saleswoman, right? I'm a marketer. I am marketing a certain way of thinking, a way of learning, a way of going about life to a group of young girls and young women. And so, with me being a marketer and being a saleswoman, yeah, it's got to be glossy. It's got to look good. It's got to say, well, if I do this and I go your route, then this is what it looks like. Absolutely. And so, we can't afford not to make sure that we are supported adequately, that we are thinking about the role models and the images and the ideas and the visuals in which we're putting in front of them. It has to be supported. I think sometimes we are comfortable seeing when men are in those positions, and we don't necessarily equate that to ourselves. And so we have to not only do the mentorship for the girls, but we got to stay in collegial, whether it's coaches, whether it's mentors, but even as colleagues, sometimes we have to be comfortable enough to lift another sister up and say, girl, but you could and should, or I see your talents and gifts in this way, and I've even like within the last probably year or so been able to visualize and see myself even with people I've known and seen them, maybe they work on the for-profit side. So in my mind, I was like, well, they're up here. And it's like, but no, sis, you are up here too. And these are my friends and my connections. And so, and through that kind of collegial connection, hanging out at some of the same places that they invite you over here or they speak a word to you, it helps boost your confidence. We never stop learning, we never stop growing. But it's important that we be able to keep lifting ourselves up and knowing the value of what we provide because we're teaching and setting an example for those who are following us about is what she say really matters? Should I really take those choices? Because look at her. She looked like she about to, she broke down. She's tired. She's stressed. She's mean. And that's not what we want to promote. So yeah, we got to be mindful about all those things.
And you're very right. Like as soon as you said that, that's true. Like we have to be our own marketers for our work
Hmm.
or for our gifts. Like there's no way that you can tell me, Kelly, that you serve women or young girls, but yet your hair is
Right.
disheveled
Right.
and you're just kind of looking any kind of like I'll be like, you
Right.
sure?
Right.
My girl won't be coming to your
Right.
organization. But you're very correct. Like we do have, and people tend to frown on that. If you look a certain way, if you have a certain type of car, if you live a certain kind in a certain kind of neighborhood and home, then like then they think, oh well, you're too hoity-toity,
Hmm.
so we can't get there. No, actually, why don't you look at it as this is the possibility that can be
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
and I want to teach you how you can have just what I have as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
I don't want you to think that you have to look horrible and disheveled and destitute
Yeah.
in order for someone to give to you.
Yeah. Yeah. And have the
We
type
do we
of
do have to.
relationships in your life, whether it be personal, professional as well. That's a part of the soft girl life as well. Is a circle that you have around you, and that's wealth. That's when, and you were kind of hitting on
That
that a
as
little
well.
bit earlier. That's when you learn that that's the real wealth is the type of people that you're able to attract
Relationships.
into your life and
Hmm.
what they're able to bring and give. Now, the next podcast is about that recycling bin. Sometimes when you gotta let even some of the people who were helpful in one season go, right? Because your purpose evolves and it changes, and sometimes that means that that's a
Absolutely.
swap out. I had a friend tell me one time, he was like, well, Beyonce used to have to switch out that team periodically and get a new team to go to that next level. And so it's very true. So that's a part of the wealth too, is the wealth of the relationships and the people that you attract and the quality of those relationships are important too.
Yes, wealth isn't always in monetary, financial assets, but definitely what I call the currency of your relationships. Absolutely. And the last thing I want to touch on, because you touched on it and I want to bring it to the forefront, you talked about wanting to replace yourself, wanting to reproduce and then replace yourself. And for me, purpose is directly related, directly connected to legacy. And as soon as you said that, I hear legacy, I hear succession, I hear mentorship, I hear leadership. Um, Talk a little bit about why that is important to you, to replace yourself, to make sure that you don't leave, or polished pebbles don't leave the world when you do.
Yeah, yeah. No, so I've kind of realized, like, okay, what's some of what makes this work? Why we've been successful as an organization, and the individuals and team members are part of it, and also for me in a leadership role. And some of through my experiences through corporate, through working in a beauty shop, from school and always being a working girl, that I've learned is my superpower is a little bit about being a convener. It's about understanding the different audiences and stakeholders I work with. So when people hear, oh, you have a girls mentoring program, how are you into girls? They think that the girls are like my primary relationship. Well, it's the girls, it's their families, it's their moms, it's their schools that we're in, it's the communities, it's the elected officials that are a part of that, community leaders. For us, with having such a strong focus on career pipelining girls into their future careers, it's a lot of the business communities that we work with as well. And so that's a complex ability to be able to look at all these different folks and say, what's the bottom line for a girl? Why would she want to get in this program and be a polished pebbles versus just staying at home and chilling out and watching TV all summer? What's the bottom line for a school? Why is the principal want a polished pebbles program? Oh, well, we help them with workforce development. We're helping them manage some of the social emotional things that girls are dealing with, bullying, et cetera, et cetera. Well, why would a business want to partner with us? Well, they got a bottom line too. They want to give a social return on investment and be connected to philanthropically or organization, but they got a workforce that they got to fill as well. And why shouldn't we help them see that these girls and young women we work with are a natural good fit for their workforce? So for me, how you package that up, how do you train that? How do you create that? And so when I think about my legacy, I'm so grateful about the young women that I've been able to plant seeds with, that I've been able to see come back and show me the manifestation of what that looks like. I'm even more, because of my faith, so excited that there's so many that we planted seeds with that I've never even met. But I have faith and know that they've taken something from what we've done and moved forward. So for me now, it's about, how do I increase that impact even more? We're still not giving enough money to make sure that every girl gets the chance to be a part of a Polished Pebbles or Ladies of Virtue or the organization She or all these other organizations that we know about. It's not enough of those organizations. Too many schools don't even have a girl serving organizations, or we're only serving a small percentage. So for me, the natural next step is transformational leadership development to the organizations, the school districts, the communities, the folks already internally, so that they know, if you want to be successful and create a girl-centered program, and here's the skills that you need. Here's the kind of partnership development that you need. Here's what girls need to make a girl space attractive. How do you nurture them? How do you support them? And we got to work with the people who are working with the girls every day, the counselors, the deans, the paraprofessionals, the teachers, the volunteers, and the churches and the communities. And so this trainer model that we're doing with our Every Girl's a CEO program is essentially what we're doing. The students get the career success guides, and then we also have an instructor's manual that is new, that we're putting out on the market this year as well. And then you get trained by me. And so when I think about what makes me smile, what makes me happy in this chapter of my career, is being able to chop it up and talk on podcasts, but talk in front of people to say, ooh, here's what we learned from this experience. Ooh, here's how exciting when I got past the layers of a sixth grader telling me she can't stand us and she hates everything, but I knew it was fear, and we put on a job shadow, and now look at the magic. So now it's an opportunity to provide those experiences and that training to other individuals, so that it's not a belief or a dismiss that Kelly Fair is the girl whisperer or the black girl whisperer or the brown girl whisperer. We're all girl whisperers. And when we know what the skills are, what the resources and the tools and the training that's needed, we can make sure that then now we're closing a hope gap. More girls in the whole school are getting a girls program. Schools don't have to go 10 or 11 years with no resources and no support for their girls. And so for me, that's the next natural progression. It's not me trying to be all over the world and touch every girl, but how do I empower those individuals that are naturally in their day-to-day lives and give them the skills and experiences I've had so that they can keep creating more pipelines for girls to successful futures and opportunities to shine.
Oh, thank you for sharing. It's beautiful to see. Like I'm watching Purpose in all of its shapes and forms. Here, I'm listening to the different layers and colors, but also what you want to do when I think about what's next. When I think about what's next for you, what's next for Polished Pebbles, but just what's next for the girls, what's next for the women they're going to grow up into, and the lives they're going to live, and then the lives they're going to touch in the next 50 years or the next generation. um I hear the service that you're doing, but also the sacrifices that you're making. And let me be the first or the next to say, I see you. And so many people now get to see you for what it is that you're working after, that you're pushing after, what it is that you're overly stressed about. And the fact that these are the things that just come with purpose. Ladies and gentlemen, you listen to Kelly's plight. You hear purpose, but you also hear sacrifice. You hear purpose, but you hear compassion. You hear purpose, but you hear love, and all of those things are wrapped into one. And so this purpose walk and this purpose journey, and I'm glad you're hearing it from someone else. It's not always going to be peaches and cream. It's not always going to be a picnic. It's not always going to be a walk on the beach. It's not always going to be the soft
Yeah.
life,
Yep.
as much as we may want it to be. But it's a part of why we're here. It's a part of why God created you. It's a part of why God created you with the potential that you have, the gifts and talents that you have to be able to serve the world and also be compensated and rewarded for your work. Yes, Kelly, we will make sure that your reward, I will be praying, I will continue to have faith with you to make sure that your reward is not only in heaven, but also here on earth.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Kelly. This has been amazing. Thank you for your candor. Thank you for the time um, to talk to my audience and just kind of share with them that if you can do it, so can they. So if you had to give one last piece of great advice, what would that be?
You mentioned it just in your last talking points that really the universal language that kind of connects and gets you the skills, the right people, the right mentorship, puts you on track with purpose and keeps you on there is love. And so sometimes, it's the thing that you have to come back to is how can I be loving to others in this particular instance? It attracts really great things to you. And then more importantly, how can I be loving to myself? Right? Because you can't attract or bring anything or go anywhere and do any of those things if you're not understanding how important love and self love is for yourself. You can't find a purpose, get on it, and stay on it if you are not making sure that a part of that walk is taking care of you. So I think love is that universal language that makes us all successful in every area of life. And it's the thing that jokingly, as I talk to my dad, all of us will say, "Oh, Daddy, how you doing?" or "What's going on?" He was like, "Well, at the end of the day, it's all about love." So that's my closing point: is that at the end of the day, it's still all about love.
Love is the universal language. You guys heard it from Kelly Fair. Kelly, please share with us how we can connect.
Mhm.
If someone wanted to donate to your organization, how can they connect, the website? And then please tell us about the conference you have coming up
Sure.
in case a woman or a girl wanted to participate.
Absolutely. So, if anybody wants to learn more about what we do in the upcoming events, they can go to www.polishpebbles.com. They can give donations there, and the give back and donation page. And then you can follow us on social media at polishpebbles.com. You can follow me on most social media pages at KFair the Mentor. And then we're excited. We have our annual Every Girl's a CEO virtual career conference coming up where we have worked with over 300 girls here in the U.S., South Africa, Kenya, Jamaica, and this year Chad. So we'll have translators in the mix. So got to keep taking on them challenges to impact more girls. But typically for about your middle school, maybe your 11 to 18-year-old student, If individuals are interested in the career conference, they can email us at info@polishedpebbles.com.
Info at
Yep.
polishedpebbles.com. Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Kelly, thank you so much again. I love to end each episode on one of the most fun, best notes that I appreciate, and that's food.
Yeah.
Love food. Yeah, I love when I get that
Me too.
response. So please tell us, what is your favorite food or favorite dish and favorite restaurant?
So, favorite foods, I have never, fun fact about Kelly Fair, as a little girl, I never really ate my own birthday cake. I just don't like sweets like that. But if we had chicken, for dinner before that, instead of like getting a piece of cake, I'd rather have chicken. So I love pizza, ribs, chicken, really great savory foods.
Uh-huh.
And so I would say, and I love seafood. So one of my favorite local Chicago restaurants is Two Fish Seafood Restaurant. It's on the south side of 47th Street, owned by another dynamic woman, Yasmin Curtis, who actually pivoted her business in the pandemic. And so now you can find Two Fish Seafood at most national distribution and grocery stores across the country. You can get the frozen crab legs and the frozen seafood and make your own seafood boil. So it's a place that I love. If you come visit Chicago, you should come and break bread with us on the south side. But you can find it in most of your national grocery stores as well. And so I love Two Fish Seafood.
I'm gonna have to check them out. Hubby and I love seafood. We love a
Yes.
good crab fish
Okay.
boil.
Cool.
So
Come on.
we are there. Thank you so much for sharing. Ladies and gentlemen, this is another great, amazing, wonderful episode on the Purpose Finder podcast. I am your host, Charissa Monroe Wilborn, and until next time, have a wonderful day. See you soon. Bye. And ladies and gentlemen, that is a wrap on this episode of the Purpose Finder podcast. I hope today's conversation lit a fire within you, because purpose isn't just something you chase. It is something you live every single day. If this episode resonated with you, don't keep it to yourself. Leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback helps us reach more people on their journey to purpose. Let's continue the journey together. Join the Purpose Finder community on Facebook for exclusive insights, tools, and a tribe of purpose-driven people just like you. And remember, the two most important days in your life are the day you are born and the day you find out why. Your purpose isn't far off. It's already within you. It's time for you to uncover it and live it boldly. Until next time, stay inspired, stay intentional, and keep walking in your purpose.